That you also mentioned that it might take long to implement the free education policy under the new administration, but you still feel that something can be done. But remember that your young people, or your members who are the young people, for them, I believe that they don't want to hear any form of excuse, because for them, they just want to see that promise being fulfilled. Let's begin on the free education. How can that be attained?
Thank you so much, Innocent. I think free education can be attained in a way that the private sector, also they must be empowered. Right. So this free education may not be free education from the institution point of view that is offering that education. This is just our position and our advice to the government. But free education can be free education from the side of the student, the recipient of that education. But from the institution point or side, something needs to be paid for them to sustain their operations. So now, for example, when you look at us at Zambian Youth League, us at Zambian Youth League at the moment, we have a vicious program where we are engaging ourselves in agricultural projects countrywide. So at the moment, we're just at the verge of trying to finalize on the issues of land and other things. So as the revenue at Zambian Youth League that we are going to be generating, this revenue, part of it has to go supporting our fellow youths.
Right. So
I think what is important is that the government must provide an enabling environment.
Right.
Once the enabling environment is provided and partner with the private sector, then this one can be achieved, because as Zambians, we must realize that we must not just wait for what the country can do for us, but we must get engaged and see what we can do for our country.
Right.
So this vision is a very good vision. And we don't want the UPND to run away from it, because when youths were going to cast a vote, this is what they had in mind. You remember during the PF administration, during the time of His Excellency, his soul rest in peace, President Sata, they won the election on the basis of the promises they made, like lower taxes, more money in people's pockets, more jobs. So anything else the PF did was outside the campaign promise. And this is why this time around they were not voted out of power, because the voters, they remember the messages that people had when they were campaigning. So for now, the UPND government has been voted into office because of the promises of free education, because of creating jobs, because of reducing fertilizer from 700 to 250, because of reducing mirror meal, because of reducing fuel pump price up to 5 kwacha per liter somewhere there. So this is the message the UPND had. Now, along the way, if they shift completely from this one and preach a different message whilst they're in office, the Zambian people, they will remember the campaign promises. And come 2026, what you saw now may be a different scenario. So what we want to encourage the UPND government is to stick to their campaign promises. Where they see that it's difficult, let them engage the Zambian people. Let them engage the private sector. Let them engage people like us, the Zambian youths. Like, for example, when you look at the other day, the Minister of Education was saying that they are going to give schemes of loans. And they'll start from other universities like in Mulungushi and then come to University of Zambia. So now when you look at the criteria of giving those scholarships, you realize that most of the people that may benefit are those from the rich families. But we realize that education in Zambia, for it to reach every part of the country, they must do what we call selective appointment, or selective way of choosing who should be benefited. How can this be realized? You choose a person per family or per village. Because if you, Innocent, you are a graduate in your family, you have a diploma or a degree, the people that are in your family, you become an inspiration to them. So eventually, even without the support of the government, anyone, because of what you have done, people start looking up to you, and eventually others, they'll start completing. Even from the money that you can be having once you start working because of education, you can even start helping your family. So the government must begin to adopt certain policies as they are giving free education. So they may not begin with everyone, but they may give it to certain people that need it the most. For example, they say, let's look at how many villages do we have? Because when you work with the chiefs have got register. They have the number of villages. Each chief has got the register, the number of villages they have. So, for example, if the Minister of Education were to say, okay, let us go to the chiefs and make sure that we have one village be sponsored or given free education, this can be achievable. So there should be a point where we need to begin from and then begin to graduate. Then when it comes to the private sector, the private sector is what we call the community social responsibility.
Right.
And we need to look at, for example, the president say, I liked the president what he did now, because they have created a new ministry, which is for small and medium enterprises. Now, what this means to the youths and the Zambian is that the government is going to create a lot of good opportunities, where they may even start giving finances and other help to companies and the other organizations. Now, these companies, there must be conditions attached and say, look, if you have 10 employees, we are going to fund you so that you can employ maybe 10 more. And then the other profit you are going to make, the condition that you are going to attach is that you are supposed to sponsor 2 students from grade 1 up to university. So if and that once this is spread throughout all the companies in Zambia, I'm telling you, free education is attainable.
Right. Just hold on your thoughts there. Let's hear from Mr. Tembo as well, before we get into the new ministry that we've just attached to it. Let's hear from Mr. Tembo. You are aware, Mr. Tembo, that the issue of free education, I think, has been a thorny issue in the minds of many Zambians, that more especially the politicians, those in the opposition now, are saying this could be a far-fetched dream to achieve in Zambia, because we are looking at the population that we have today. This actually policy was tried by the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda during his time, when the population was about 6 million, about somewhere there. And what we saw was a number of schools actually being run down. They had no chalks, issues to do with the books, desks. You remember very well. And today, for God's sake, we are talking about over 18 million Zambians, and then you come in as a leader promising free education. How possible is that? And a very difficult economy which we have today. I think we are among the poorest economies in the world today. How possible is that can be achieved?
Thank you very much. I want to take this point to say it's possible for Zambia to achieve that in terms of free education.
How?
I believe when His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, when he began to look at on his political messages according to his promises, when you look at the funding that is promised to the schools, one thing that we should remember is that Zambia is not a poor country. Zambia is a rich country because of got full of natural resources. Right. I believe if we go back to the regime of our late President Mwanawasa, from what was putting across the nation of Zambia, I think by now I would have achieved that. I believe if our President Hakainde would look back to that, I think they should shift to the point of providing free education, for the point being that Zambia being a rich country, if Zambians, they manage their resources well, with people who won't be greedy, people who won't be selfish, people who see and love others, because this is your country. There'll be no other country that you go to. This is my country as well. So being my country, when you look at the time of our president, our first Republican president, Kenneth Kaunda, despite the population was a few, but he managed to do that. The reason because there's a heart for Zambia. And right now...
He didn't manage to do it. We can say he failed. He attempted to do it, but he failed along the way, because schools had no jokes, issues to do with the desks.
Yes.
I did mention about the books as well. Those were the challenges that he faced along the way that was abolished.
Yeah, that was the point where I said if most of those people who be in management, they won't be greedy and selfish. We believe Zambia can achieve the free education. Even in Kaunda Ela, most of them, I think if we had right leaders with right mindset in the office, would have achieved that. I believe one of the president said he was one of the beneficiaries for free education. I had my other side of our relatives. Some benefited because by that time they had seen what would be offered to the country. I believe direct from maybe after grade 12, some were being taken maybe to go for ZNS. which they're working for the nation, and some of the money was plowed back into education, so that the other people who are coming, they're able to benefit into that. Right. So when you look at the natural resources today, it's ridiculous to say that we have abundance of natural resources. Then end of the day, we're getting a retro as a country. Then most of the money is going outside. But like my brother has said, my comrade has said, if the private sectors can be empowered, then we pay taxes on time and we support our nation. Because if I'm an entrepreneur, I won't take money as out of the country. Problem with Zambians ourselves, we want luxurious life. Then we forget about the upcoming youths. For now, we say youth spoke, and from what the youth spoke, we need to give them back what their wish is, because the president promised them free education.
Right. And
most of them are looking for it so that tomorrow they can be better Zambians. Today we have got better leaders because are those who benefited from free education. So if youths are denied that free education, who is going to be a leader for tomorrow? Because let's say where I'm coming, maybe I'm supposed to be at university, but how much is university today? You're talking about a semester, somebody is paying more than 18,000 kwacha. Then what is his basic earning salary? Maybe the parents are getting less than 2,000 kwacha, 3,000 kwacha. Then they need to provide for their lunch, they need to provide for food, and end of the day they need to take somebody to university. He can't afford. So if the president has got a heart for Zambia, we believe they should revisit it. It's not about depending on donors, but we should depend on ourselves as Zambians by being hard workers. And when we're hard working, we get back to agriculture. There's a lot of money in agriculture. Then us bringing in foreign investors who come to milk Zambia. But Zambians ourselves, we can do it. And I believe this new dawn, if they really stick to their promises, like they said, starting from 1st September, 200 days in office, we believe they can deliver that, and they can give us a message that will uplift the spirit of youths to say, for sure, this is what we wanted Zambia to be today.
Right. One worrying, aspect is that of the silence, or should I say, I want to be careful with the terms I'm using, the seemingly silence from the head of state and his entire administration with regards to the free education policy. And you've heard some of the leaders in the opposition, for example, Honorable Given, who is now the Vice President for the Patriotic Front, is saying, according to them, they expected the President during his official opening of the National Assembly to outline or to possibly emphasize just a mention to say, wait for my budget, because we did promise you about free education. Possibly in the midst of education, we are going to give you a much allocation to that aspect. But there was nothing to mention about free education in his entire speech. What we heard was the issue to do with the bursaries, which has been there. He said we are going to see much of transparency in the way these bursaries are going to be given. They'll be given on merit, and to people that are less privileged or people that are poor are the ones that are going to benefit more from these bursaries. There was no mention whatsoever to the issue of free education. Is that not a worry to an NGO like you as well?
To us as Zambian Youth League, I think that was a big worry. That's why when we say our voice for the voiceless, we believe we'll always be on media to speak it out, because the president himself, he said, get your notebooks and start taking points, what you can deliver and what you cannot deliver. And we believe 2026 is not very far. For the past elections, most of the politicians, they should learn a lesson from it, that at times Zambians are not people that we should take for granted. It can pay in hindsight, but on that day they'll speak loud like they spoke loud on the past elections. So we believe as the president, despite him not mentioning, wasn't forgotten as Zambians, wasn't forgotten as youths, we'll still be there. Because I think when you saw me scrolling on my phone, I was reading on the 200 points that the UPND had on what they said, what they will be the allocation to the Ministry of Education. Those even schools which are not gazetted, they said there will be an allocation of maybe about 40,000 per term to boarding schools, every school which is gazetted, meaning they had a plan where they'll get the monies from. So for the president not to speak out to say, okay, we'll fulfill our promises, we think it gives us a lot of worrisome. And you shouldn't forget that the majority who voted, it's not about the old age, it was about the youths. And the youths are still existing. And for that they're still existing, we believe you should be a listening government.
All right.
Yes.
Let's get back to Mr. Malembeka as well. Yes. Now we get into the new ministry which you've talked about, the Minister of Small, Medium and Enterprises.
Yes.
Let me hear from you how you hope to benefit from that ministry, you as young people and also the small entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Innocent. And this ministry has come at the right time, Innocent.
Yeah.
Because the biggest problem that we have as a nation now is unemployment. The unemployment levels are far too high.
Right.
A lot of youths are unemployed. Now, this ministry is going to provide a solution to the problem of unemployment. How is it going to be? How this one will be realized is that because one of the biggest problems that the SMEs had then is the source of funding. They never used to have a good source of funding.
Yeah.
Now this ministry has been established deliberately to answer that challenge that the SMEs used to have. So us as Zambian Youth League, we are very confident that this ministry is going to help a lot of small entrepreneurs, even the medium entrepreneurs, with things that are a challenge to them, like capital and also some technical support, because some entrepreneurs, they fail in their business because they don't have the technical know-how. So it is our appeal as Zambian Youth League to the government that even in as much as they will be giving financial support to the SMEs, they should also give the technical know-how, because even if someone is given the money but they don't have the knowledge, the how to do about it, then they will be unable to pay back these loans even if they are given.
Right.
So as Zambian Youth League, this is why we are so excited about this ministry, because the employment must not be by the government. The government must not be the employer when we talk about employment creation. This is why most African countries have failed, because people think it's the job of the government to create jobs. No, it is not. The role of the government is to create an enabling environment, that what they have done. For example, Innocent, if you have a small company, and I have a small company, and my brother have a small company, and you have 2 workers, I have 2 workers, he has 2 employees, it means all of us, we have 6 employees. But with the coming in of small and medium enterprise, the ministry, it means when you are helped, you will be also given as a condition to double the workforce, because now you have the resources. So you are going to employ 2 more, I will employ 2 more, you employ 2 more. At the end of the day, 6 were employed, but now after we are helped, we are going to have 12. So you see that if this is triplicated across the country, we may even have more companies even looking for people to employ.
Right.
We may have even more employers than the people that needs to be employed.
Right.
Yeah. And on the same aspect of job creation, let me also take this opportunity to look at certain things that should be stopped in this country. When you walk in a restaurant, Innocent, you'll be shocked that after having your meal, the toothpick is coming from China. How come we have a lot of trees in Zambia? Are we unable to put up a plant for production of toothpicks? You buy the ear puffs, you find that is imported from China. We grow cotton. So what is required now is to begin to establish the industries, industrializing this country. That is the first point of job creation. Then when we put up these industries, we must never export raw material. This is the secret of job creation. Because if you are growing maize, Innocent, you, after harvesting your maize, you shell it and then you export it as raw material. Do you know what you have done? You have exported jobs. Right. What do I mean? Where you are taking that raw maize, the people that there are millers there, people that will be processing that maize into mealie meal, even packaging it, those are the jobs that you have sent away.
Right.
So if all the processing and manufacturing, if it's done locally, then it means we are going to create more jobs. Just look at copper. The copper that we have in Zambia, it's exported in raw form. If there was a deliberate policy that all the buyers and the players in the copper industry, they must set up their plants here, process our copper here, finish the copper here. If you are doing electric cables, they do it here, they manufacture it from here, and then they export the raw materials, the finished products. What will happen if we did that is that, one, there will be forex. We are going to earn foreign exchange. then our kwacha will begin to appreciate, because now we begin to gain a lot of the dollar. Then we are going to create a lot of jobs, because from the extraction, for example, let me take for example copper. Where they are doing mining, it's extraction. There will be jobs created. Where there will be also processing, it's another industry. It also creates jobs. Now, if you are into manufacturing, that will be another stage of manufacturing. Right. So you have 3 stages of employment that will have been created in that line.
Let me just squeeze in one question within that aspect. Very important submission, actually, that you are making.
Yes.
I don't mean to curtail you, but you go on. Let's just hear from Mr. Tembo as well, to add on a few components to this discussion, in terms of what, of course, Bali promised, that he is going to ensure that more jobs or job creation is given to the young people. For him, he believes much that young people have got that potential to change or to sharpen the face of Zambia with regards to contributing to the growth of this economy, to the country's economy, through the energies that they have. And I did mention that part of the sector or the industry that is going to milk a lot of young people going forward is the mining sector as well. In line with what Mr. Malembeka just submitted, how do you think the mining sector really can benefit the young people in Zambia with regards to job creation?
Job creation, I think, has been one of the killing part in Zambia.
Right.
On paper, we speak it a lot, but practically, I think Zambians most of the times have failed. Even the previous government, they failed. The reason why, most of the Zambians are greedy and they're selfish. When today we go to Pakra, when you take stock about how many companies are there, we've got more than 1 million companies. Just like my brother has said, if each and every company is taken serious to say, okay, why I'm registering this company is to provide job creation. Let's say we've talked about a new creation of a new ministry for SMEs. I believe it has been there. That's what I've said. Most of it just dies on paperwork, but practically we're not doing it. So when you look at on the part of mines, I think I've been looking in the mines industry, I think from way back, for more than 10 years now, right, if you believe that. And the Zambians have got potential to do mining with the knowledge that they have. If the Zambians, the same Zambians are empowered to learn like artisanal mines and to learn small-scale mines, I think we can have a job creation. What is so disappointing today, I think the president should take note of it and work on it, because we say small-scale mines are supposed to be for Zambians, and artisanal mines are supposed to be for Zambians. The problem, we have got long people in the offices who would shield Zambians and protect the foreigners, who end of the day they're benefiting on the expense of Zambians. So if you and me today were empowered into mining sector and were given right tools, were given a loan, because mining is not a simple business, it's a business that is very cost innocent.
Right.
But if we're given that proper knowledge, and like my brother has said, if everything can be done in our country here in Zambia, I think in terms of production, because if I run a small-scale mining, I believe I can employ more than 20 workers, 20 to 50 workers, provided that I've got a very good loan, which I'm able to pay once I sell my product or my outputs, which means in various minerals. And Zambians can have a very good job creation. Right. One thing that most breeds in my heart is to look at the way a Zambian worker will be treated by a foreigner. Look, them they make millions, but on the end of the day, you find that because maybe somebody is in the mine in Shangombo or whatever it is, why should you get 800 kwacha after doing a hard labor? I said no. That's not a Zambian the way it's supposed to be treated. But if it's given to a Zambian, I understand the problem that a Zambian has, and I understand the budget that it has, because I'll feel it to say, if it's me who is working like this today, then I'm given that retro, what am I going to give my family?
All right. Just let's have a short break, and then you catch us on the other side, of course, of the discussion. I know that Mr. Tembo, you still want to offload more, but let's just take a very short break. We'll continue. All right, thank you so much. Welcome back to this special interview, of course, discussing the expectations of young people in the new Dawn administration of President Hakainde Hichilema. And of course, I'm hosting a delegation coming from the Zambian Youth League, and of course being represented by the Vice President, who is Jonathan Malembeka, in charge of administration and politics, or political if you wish. And also I'm joined by Edward Tembo, of course, who happens to be the National Secretary of this organization. Now, we are in the dying minutes of the program because, like I did mention, that we're going to cross over to the Mlungushi, where Pierre Lumumba is in the country all the way from Kenya, and then we subject you to that, of course, public lecture. As we wind up, let's go on. And now, there are some also of the issues to deal with corruption that we've had for a long time in the country. And I know that one of your leader, or your leaders, who happens to be by the name of Hoshud Malambo, the organization president, he's been on this platform actually since inception. Of course, at some point, I do remember very well, he came here and he sat on that platform giving us a catalog of the corruption activities that were happening, more especially at the Kansenseli gold mine, the newly discovered gold mining in Zambia, which led to some, senior officials, government officials being dismissed, others, police officers being fired, others being transferred. Not only that, but some senior PF members during that time were suspended. One of those people were the late Jackson Kungo, who was the chairperson under the Patriotic Front in that northwestern province. Allow me to say, may his soul rest in peace. But of course, I was caught up in this, a web of corruption allegations. How can we end this confusion where people want to benefit where they did not reap?
Thank you so much. I think corruption is a big problem in Zambia. First of all, it has not just started in Zambia, but also it has started in families. Right. Then it has found itself in the community, in Zambia and Africa as a whole, even the world over. But from national point of view, corruption is a very bad vice that must be discouraged by all means. Right. And we are happy as the Zambian Youth League and the youths at large, when you look at the pronouncements that His Excellency has been making concerning corruption, that is going to run a zero tolerance to corruption, a crusade. So we welcome this pronouncement and the stance of the new Dawn administration. But our expectation, because the biggest problem of the political leaders is that most of the time they are very good at pronouncements, and which is rhetoric. So what we want to urge this government is to run away from rhetorics and get to the real work. Yeah. They must walk the talk. And in their fight against corruption, they must not be selective. They must not be vindictive, because sometimes corruption only becomes corruption when the other government leaves power and the other government comes in, which should never be the case. So this government must set a precedence by making sure that all those people from the previous government that engage in corrupt practices, they are made accountable. But they should go an extra mile. They should begin to identify people even in this government that may engage themselves or attempt to engage in corruption. They must be seen to be prosecuted also. When such an approach is taken, then Zambians will understand that this government means well. Right. But if this fight is just thrown towards maybe those with divergent views or those from the major opposition political parties, then it will lose its major meaning or objective. Fighting corruption must not be a place or platform now to avenge for others. We feel that corruption is bad, but the government must have enough eyes to see those that erred in those days and those that are doing the erring now.
Right.
Because you realize that after the UPND government time is over, another party that will take office, they'll begin also to say the UPND were corrupt.
Right.
And you see a lot of court cases in being brought up.
Mushrooming.
Yeah, so what is important is that before this government leaves office, let them even show us even one. Because it can never be true that this government is full of angels, where no one can ever even engage themselves in some acts of corrupt activities. So this is what we want to see as Zambian Youth League.
Right. Let's have from Mr. Tembo with regards to the fight against corruption. Let's quickly move in because we need to wind up sooner or later. I want us to get to the issue of political violence.
But the fight of corruption is not just for one person. I believe we are supposed to be behind helping the president. As much as he says we want to light corruption in his union, I believe even us, it's supposed to be our responsibility as Zambians. Because I believe you may be innocent. Corruption doesn't just start from nowhere. It starts with you and me today. A few days, I think I was happy when I was watching one of the clips for traffic officers. After the directive from the Minister of Home Affairs said no roadblocks, then somebody mounted a roadblock. Then somebody went there and got a clip and said, why don't you listen? Why don't you stop doing this? I believe if we take that stance as responsible citizens, despite whatever I want for a favor, I say I'll respect my country. And I'll respect it for the betterness of others. When I say no to corruption, despite I see that you want to do me a favor, I should say no. One of it, look at it, I was speaking on the issue of mines. Today, most of Zambians are being disadvantaged because of the aspect of corruption. Because if I'm in the office today, I want to benefit more than what I earn. Look at it, I think there was one party, I was in Monza last week. I'm fighting for a small place to mine gypsum. And on that other part, I found that the foreigners, they've got a very big piece of mining right. Then inside there, they've got also some small-scale mines, which is supposed to be for Zambians. But when I go there, myself as a Zambian, they'll believe that I don't have money. But when they look at a white skin, definitely because they know that there'll be a brown envelope flowing, they'll support him and to make sure that he gets the attainment. But what about me, who is a Zambian? Who is going to suffer tomorrow? It's me, Zambian. So if President HH says no tolerance to corruption, I believe it should be our responsibility. I believe, like my brother said, no one is an angel. Even these new elected ministers who are in the offices, they want to be luxurious life, just like the previous ones were. And for sure, if us Zambians, we take it as our responsibility, despite I go there, I say, you are here as my servant. You are here to serve me. I'm not supposed to give you anything, but I need to get a service because Zambia is my country. And I'm the one who made you to be there. So for that, I think we help to fight corruption. I got a very good example in one time I was in Tanzania. I was here, I think, in a trade of rice. And we were supposed to stripe the containers in Tanzania. We had about 30 containers. Innocent. When Magufuli was there, when he said no to corruption, he never took it light. I went there and tried to bribe one of the TRA officers, the commissioner himself. He said, I'm scared with the president. Here there's $20,000. Allow us to do the striping of containers. He said no. And I said, Tanzania will be a better country. And when you go to Tanzania today, it can be compared to Zambia. Because they took it at their responsibility for each one of them, said Tanzania is for Tanzanians, and they loved it. I saw the way they grabbed everything, maybe from the foreigners, and they gave it back to Zambians. That's why we see Tanzania today is better than any other countries in Southern Africa. And they've built Tanzania. And there's nothing that can stop us to build Zambia. Zambia has got a lot of wealth. It's because we need to have a right mindset to see that we need to develop Zambia and to be a better place for everyone.
Wow, it's interesting. Let's talk about the dependence, on foreign funders or investors, if you wish. We have seen that each administration that comes in, they have to pay homage to the sponsors. I call them sponsors, or for lack of better words, or I should say the partners. These are, of course, people that are financing our economies to where it is today. And you were here, Mr. Malembeka, as well as an addition coming from Mr. Tembo, that Zambia is not a poor country. We've got all these natural or mineral resources that we can utilize to our advantage. But still more, we keep on borrowing money from, the outside country, and of course, the IMF, for example, they've been in this country, not only in Zambia, but in other countries as well. At what point do you think that we're going to realize and begin to utilize the mineral resources that we have to our advantage without really looking outside the borders.
Thank you so much, Innocent. This problem is a very big problem for our country because it's like a tradition and a culture now.
Yeah.
When you look at Zambia, we are a very rich country. If we knew how to harness our resources very well, there is no need for us to begin running to the outside funders.
Yeah.
Let me say this categorically. Any nation that will rely on the outside society for prosperity, it's lying. Why? Because the people that bring in resources, they have got their own interests. They have got their own conditions. By the time we have fully met those conditions and interests, we will not be able to prosper.
There's no free lunch, like others have said.
Yes, so I'm happy though that His Excellency the President, when you look at his background, is an economist. Yeah. Now, one of the things he has made clear, before I delve in much in that one, is that the way he's going to run this economy, when you have followed his speeches, he has said that he's going to prioritize investment expenditure and not the consumption expenditure. So if these resources that are coming from outside the world, from the Western countries into Zambia, if it will be used in that context, whereby all of it is concentrated in the investment and not in the consumption, then along the run, we may have the returns. Though it may not be so much, but at least it will be somehow better for this nation. But going forward, what is required is that as Zambians, we need to understand the resources that we have. For example, you made reference to the Kansenseri gold mine. Yeah. The gold and the diamonds that we have in this country, if it were all to be harvested and you place the value on it, all the golds and the diamond under the Zambian soil and the copper and all the mineral resources, when you look at the water that we have, the timber that we have, the animals, all the natural resources, if we were to convert this into the money, I'm telling you, we cannot even be running around asking for resources. Right. But what we don't have, I think, is one, we don't have the interest. We don't have the interest to take deliberate effort on how best, because we need to begin from the scratch, like the president for Zambian Youth League always starts that. We are supposed to start from the scratch, like the way Tanzania began. Start somewhere with what we have, then begin to grow. Let me just give you an example. In agriculture sector alone, agriculture sector has got huge potential, even to finance the budget of Zambia alone, just one sector. And we are surrounded by market. When you just look at, for example, Congo, what we see every year is that the export of maize is banned. You cannot export maize, you cannot export this to Congo. But if we are serious, we are supposed to look at these countries like Congo as an opportunity, as a market, then encourage the farmers, come up with schemes of growing excess maize for export.
Right.
But we don't see these opportunities. We don't have eyes that can see opportunities. Because in the project...
Who is blind in this case? When you say we don't have eyes to see these opportunities, who is blind in this case?
All of us...
the young people, or maybe those in government?
All of us, we are blind, because this is not the fight of one person. Remember, before UPND was created, Zambia existed. In fact, all of us, you and me, we are older than UPND, because the time UPND was formed, we were already born. So this problem is not the UPND problem, it's not the PF problem, it's not the MMD problem, it's not even the UNIP problem. This is about us as Zambians. I think we need to come together and begin to understand the resources that we have a nation, and begin to take deliberate steps of how we can convert these resources and the potential that we have into meaningful wealth. Right. Because one of the problems that we have also, let me talk about this one, is the Zambian workforce. We don't build the capacity. When we go to the mine or any industry, find that the Zambians, they do these other small jobs. Technical jobs are for the expatriates. Now what we are supposed to do is all the sectors in this country, like the bank, the mines, everywhere, we are supposed to engage the youths so that it's job on training, even when it comes to the making of the roads. This time around, when you go where they're constructing roads, you find that the people that are dependable and reliable to make to have a perfect road, you find that it's the Chinese. These Zambian engineers we have, it may just be engineer by name or by paper or diploma or degree, but when you take them on the site, there's nothing they can do. Why? Because we have not invested in practical work. So we are supposed to make sure that our people have the skills to convert the raw material into meaningful wealth.
All right. I'm afraid let's get into my last two segments of this, discourse.
Yes.
One of the critical issues that I have for you is to just provoke you a little bit and get your thoughts or your understanding regarding the access to land by most of the young people that you are representing in the Zambian Youth League. Because in as much as you are going to preach about development, young people being given maybe a capital to start up a business, others who they want to go into farming, for example. Others, they want to invest into maybe real estates, for example. But they don't have land, for example. Most of the land that we have, Mr. Tembo, you are aware that it's in the hands of the foreigners. There's a lot of land out there which is, let me say, it's dormant. The owners, you can't see them. They have gone outside the country. You only see them the moment you take your plow, for example, to go and begin to put up a foundation. Somebody will come now with a bulk of papers. No, this land that you see here is being owned by maybe Mr. Dash or Mr. X, who is in the USA right now, or who is maybe in Botswana, who is maybe in South Africa, for example. How best can we resolve this issue? Access to land by the young people. Because most of the young people, I think we can simply call them as foreigners, because land, it is what defines you as a citizen of a country.
Thank you very much. Let me come to that. I think it's one of it which is very provoking to Zambian. I don't know where we've lost our culture in terms of land. Because how I wish our body, I remember I had one of the promises to say when they come in, they're from government, I think they'll make sure that each and every Zambian has got access to land. And we believe that's one of the points that we're taking note as Zambian Youth League, where why should land be for foreigners? Because if land belongs to Zambians, then Zambians, if they have access to land, believe me, I think they can do a lot of exploits. Today, for me to get land is so difficult because even the traditional leaders themselves, they've started selling land, where it's not even gazetted in our constitution to say, why should I buy land to my traditional, to my chief or to my headman? I am the owner of that land. When I go there, I've got the right to say, I'm asking for a piece of land, and I'm supposed to be given. I think I like what Tongas took it for, because Tongas, they believe that when they apply for land, they know the right they have. Most of the Tongas are not in Southern Province. Some have settled in Central Province. You find some, they write letters to chiefs, no, I want this piece of land to have it for my animals, and they're given. But I don't know whether it's the foolishness of us youths. Whatever we believe is that money works. That's why today we find that most of these briefcase officers, they've taken advantage of it by forming different companies and ending up selling land to us at a very expensive price because they've seen the foreigners, the first beneficiaries to that land. But if foreigners are benefiting, because why should they buy land more than 100,000 today, innocent? Where am I going to get that money? I don't have any business, and I need to have my own house, even just a small apartment. But when they talk about 100,000, maybe my monthly income is about 2,000 kwacha. Where am I going to get that piece of land? But if the new government truly believes into that, they should revisit the act itself that have a provision to give that land to a Zambian. And if they believe in what they promised, I think most of the foreigners, they should surrender land to Zambians, just like Zimbabwe did. And not them to have 99% of lease. Let them just to partner with a Zambian so that at least we can have access to that. Then we'll bring a better development to Zambia.
All right.
Than dependability on the foreigners. Then we'll still believe to be the same kind of Zambian that will be just speaking without actions. Even as he is in plot 1, I think you shouldn't forget that youths are there and youths are waiting. And that is what we're waiting. Land is our first priority. Because when I've got land, I've got everything. I can have a small piece of land, which is an acre. if I can do pottery there, if I can do a piece of farming, provide vegetables. It's not today, it used to be in the past where I should come up with what you call a job. But if I mean well for a Zambian, I should be a hardworking guy who can go and make money on the land. Then I'll realize what an SME is there for. Because today we look at these, most of malls, I think they need people to supply there. But if they empower Zambians, they empower youths. Youth outside there, you who believe in Zambia, go outside and get your business. Register a business and do it, you can still make it out there. Don't just depend on government to say, I'll be employed by government. We say the offices that we have put them there is for every Zambian. We don't want to see it like the way it used to be, that was special for special people like cadres. We don't believe in cadres now anymore as Zambian Youth League. We believe Zambia is for everyone. And you must have access to every office. I'm speaking to the local government. It's now the ones who will be looking also in the issue of land, because the chiefs have been put in that land, that site. In case that people don't understand, I think go there and get more information so that you can be a beneficiary of your land in Zambia and do what is expected of us to do.
Thank you so much. I'll give you 2 minutes as well to give your offload regarding the same question before we go to the last segment.
Yeah, thank you so much, Innocent.
I'll give you 2 minutes to.
You know, it's unfortunate that excuse me.
It's all right.
That as a nation, what we do is that we host land, we don't own it.
Right.
Why do I say so? Most of the substantial amount of land is owned by foreigners like the Chinese and others, which is very unfortunate. What must happen is that there must be deliberate policies.
Right.
That are favorable for the youths, because youths, they don't have enough capital. They cannot compete with other people. They may not have enough resources to compete like maybe with the Chinese firms and the other big firms like foreigners. So there must be separate deliberate policies that are created specifically for the youths in relation to land ownership.
Right.
Each youth must be able to be given an opportunity to own land at a very affordable price. Such that even if they cannot pay there and then, they must be given time to pay. Maybe if they are paying a small amount of money per year, and eventually they can be able to own that land. Right. But on top of that, there's something innocent that I've noted in this country. Yeah. When you tour this nation, the farms and the estates and the land that is owned by the whites, all of it is on title deed. But when you go to the farms of the Zambians, in the villages and in peri-urban areas, like the land that is owned by the chiefs, you find that this land is not on title. Right. What the farmer is only having is a permit from the chief. Now what that means is that when you have a land with a permit from the chief, you cannot walk to any bank and use that land as collateral. Right. That document cannot be recognized as collateral by the bank. But here is a white man. He is your neighbor. Him, he has title deed. He goes to the bank with a title deed and he gets money. Then he develops that land. So we find that the systems that we have with regarding to land ownership disadvantages the Zambians. So something must be taken seriously to make it friendly for the youths to acquire land. Like us as Zambian Youth League, like I said in my preamble, we are now embarking on a vicious program and project where we want to have a very big commercial farm in each district and in each chiefdom. And there are certain crops that we have aligned up as a project as Zambian Youth League countrywide. But what we are going to start with is the cassava production. Right. Why cassava production? Because it will not require any form of input like chemicals or fertilizer. The only thing it needs is the cuttings, the cassava cuttings. And the youths and the villagers and the communities, we have all agreed to donate these cuttings for free. Right. And the youths, our members, we have agreed also to contribute free labor. So the only thing that we need now is land. Right. So we are going to engage Ministry of Youth and Sport for recommendations that we can be introduced to Minister of Lands and the local government and the chiefs, so that if this land can be provided to the youths through Zambian Youth League, right, you will see that the monies that will be realized, like I said, once the cassava is grown, we are not going to be selling the raw cassava.
Right.
What we are going to do is that that cassava will be processed into meal mill. So there will be jobs that will be created. Then the revenue that will be created, there will be a community social responsibility. The members, they can also be sponsored, like in terms of education and other things.
Right.
So
I know that you've got a lot that you have to offload, and
Sure.
I believe that the viewers are enjoying your submission.
Thank you.
But let's now get into our final conclusion now. I'll give possibly a minute each, and then we go. In as much as we might sound so sympathetic to the young people who are the youths that you represent, and you want to put pressure on the government and the new administration now to ensure that they fulfill all the promises that they promised to the young people. Again, let's not ignore the fact that some, again, of your young people, I think they have been caught up in a web of political violence. We have seen that most of these political violence that happens, they involve in your generation. What are you doing to ensure that you liberate the mindset of these young people from this confusion?
Thank you so much, Innocent. I think political violence has been a very evil vice in Zambia.
Yeah.
And most of the perpetrators are the youths, like you have said. Now, youths, they don't just engineer violence on their own. These youths, they are in a way sponsored. So behind the violence, there are political parties and political party leaders who put these youths in the forefront. So when you see youths engage in political violence, just know that they are not the genesis.
Right.
The motivation behind them being engaged in political violence is because of poverty and unemployment. These political party leaders, they will come with certain incentives to send these youths on the front line, to engage in political violence.
Right.
So the youths are not the beginners and the initiators of political violence, but the political party leaders. So what we are doing, like you have said in a nutshell, is that we are engaging our youths to make sure that there are a lot of things that we're engaging the youth at Zambian Youth League. For example, this new ministry that is created of the Minister of SMEs, you find that what we are teaching our youths is that you must position yourself so that you can be able to benefit from this one. How do they position themselves? They must be able to create companies now, because this money will be for SMEs, not individuals. So which means we are engaging those how they can come up with a company. Then after they have made a company, they should learn to profile it. Because when you want to get a loan from the government or from any institution, they'll be able to look at how you have packaged and profiled your business. Right. So we are also teaching our youths how to come up with a business plan, a project proposal, and how just to come up with a very good profile that makes sense from business point of view. And also engaging them to desist from engaging in political violence and other vices like maybe abusing of alcohol and drugs. We understand that youths are the future leaders, but not just the future leaders. In fact, we are the leaders now, and we are also the future leaders. So we are the double leaders. Right. Unlike the elders that are already in power, they're just leaders now, but us, we are leaders now and in the future. So they have a huge responsibility on top of them. So we are encouraging our youth all over the country, because mind you, Innocent, Zambian Youth League, we don't just have members in Zambia. Let me just mention this to the whole world. We have youths in Zambia and youths outside Zambia. What we have done is that we have made the committees in each country in the world, as long as there are Zambian youths there. So right now we have Zambian Youth League India. All the students that are in India, all the Zambian youths that are in India, they form themselves in a committee. So Zambian Youth League is an entity that's looking at all the youths in Zambia and all the youths in the diaspora. Right. So we are a very big force, and we are making sure that we bring a positive message to the youths to engage themselves in things that matter the most, because they are youths tomorrow and they are youths today.
Right.
Thank you.
Let's hear from Mr. Tembo. I know that you might be very ashamed, even as you sit on that platform advocating for good things on behalf of the young people. And these are the same people again that will go on rampage, fighting one another, abusing drugs, like Mr. Malembeka has mentioned.
Yes. I think, Innocent, I believe some time back, by the time that the Katua by-election, I was one of the Zambian Youth League who stood out and said, youth shouldn't be used for political violence. And that was about 2 years ago. I think Zambian Youth League was the first league or the first organization in Zambia which came up with the idea of, say, let's stop political violence. I think when you move around, I think you will be able to find our stickers and some banners where we said, say no to political violence. Because there's a reason why we said no to political violence. Like my brother has said, we are the future leaders for tomorrow. And what is it that our parents, the politicians today, are teaching us? They're teaching us to go for political violence. Meaning their intention is to destroy us as youths and to destroy the nation. But if we have the love for the nation, I believe our mindset should be set to say, I'm the future leader for tomorrow. And when you look at in the Zambian political industry today, I think we've lost it. Because a true Zambian can't take the life of another person. A true Zambian can't injure another person. I thank God that the president, despite pronouncing some of those things by the time he was in opposition, but we didn't see him coming up with a voice to say no to political violence. I don't know, maybe it was the eye of saying no, actually I become into power. But today, as being a president, we believe as Zambian Youth League, want to see his voice coming up to say, no, we need to have one Zambia, one nation, where we say no to political violence. And I was happy where they said, okay, despite anyone, your PF, your whatever you put on, you have got the right. And from that right, I think it will help us to say no to political violence by giving a proper tool to a youth today. Because if a youth is busy, he won't engage himself into political violence. And I want to urge the government, especially the local government, they should take into these liquor things, especially like what they call to Jili. It has spawned a lot of youths today, where tomorrow won't have a production. Because most of the youths that engage into that, it's too cheap for somebody to drink beer for 5 kwacha, then he gets drunk without any responsibility, without any shame. But if they put a restriction to this, let beer be expensive more than a drink. For that, I think will create a very good platform for Zambia and will be able to control youths. Why? Because they become uncontrollable and they get such kind of alcohol. Today, many of the youths who are in Chainama is because of alcohol, especially to Jili. Let the local government minister look into it. It's either they ban these same foreigners who come up with that, because a Zambian, a true Zambian, can't produce such kind of alcohol to destroy another Zambia. And these same foreigners who come into Zambia, believe you me, they don't bring money into Zambia. They come to get money from Zambia. So that money is empowered to a Zambian. Zambia will be a better country. Thank you very much.
All right. Finally, as we go, I know that one issue as well is the issue to deal with. I know that most of the young people today, besides the promises we've talked about that President Bali promised to the people of Zambia, I want to get the voice of young people with regards to the ongoing debate over the presidential jet. Very provocative question. Very provocative question, which some people don't want to hear it. But we have to applaud it. It's our job. What is the position of young people or the Zambian Youth League? Should the presidential jet be sought?
You know, I had a keen interest onto that. When Barry said, I think there was a clip I was watching, when I was sworn in the morning, then by 16 hours we saw the presidential jet. I don't know where it was, whether they believe that jet belongs to Zambians or that jet belongs to the past president. I believe it's pointless for us to sell the presidential jet, because we need our president for that security matter. For us who have been in flights, I think it's not a safe place for me to connect as a president of Zambia, maybe for him to connect as a president of Zambia from here to Dubai then to New York City. But if he goes with a presidential jet, I believe there's much security. We still need him for the Zambia. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we say, no, the president maybe has been hijacked or this and that. So for the information that we have, they should just swallow their pride and say, okay, sorry, we won't sell the presidential jet because it is meant for the Zambian president. Because even if it is sold today, it won't attract the same value it had at first. It has already gone down. So for that, I think I want to urge the UPN administration is just to accept and apologize to Zambia that we can't sell the presidential jet and we'll start using it. No one will say anything because it is their entitlement to do it.
All right.
Yes.
Let's hear from Mr. Malembeka.
Yes.
The presidential jet.
Thank you so much.
I know that this question really is quite provocative to certain ears that do not want to hear it. because I know that people are in the honeymoon,
Yeah.
you know, of celebrating the UPND's victory and the likes. But for the purposes of the media, you know, ours to ask those uncomfortable questions.
Yes. Thank you so much. You know, this issue of the jet is very contentious indeed, like you had put it. You know, the way the president moves, the president is not an individual. It's an institution. And the way this institution is managed is different the way someone who is in the opposition runs his affairs. Now His Excellency the President is the government, the President of the Republic of Zambia. So what he must do, like what my brother said, that jet must not be sold.
Right.
That jet must be used because as he's traveling using the commercial flight, there's a lot of things that we are risking.
Right.
So that jet must not be sold. But what? Because when the president was campaigning, he said, once I'm sworn in by 14, by 16, the jet is sold. So now, a lot of the followers of Bali were excited on that. And you know, Zambians, they remember every word that His Excellency said. So what he should do now, there is no drama, there is no acting anymore. It's real life now after campaign. He must own up and apologize to the nation. And say, sorry, I am not going to sell. I said this during campaign promises, but I think the reality is that I can't sell it. So our advice to the president as Zambian youth is that he must not get ashamed that what he said when he was campaigning and what is happening now are different. What he's supposed to do is to come on the floor and apologize. Why are we saying apologizing? Because as a real man, for the sake of integrity, where you are wrong, you must take responsibility. As leaders, we must learn to take responsibility. Where we are wrong, we must acknowledge it and face the truth. When the president can do this with his team, people of Zambia is going to restore confidence in them. But if they cannot walk their talk, remember that someone is recording. So for the presidential jet, let them just use it. Let them just swallow the pride and let them apologize to the Zambian people and move on. He's the president now. That jet is not for the PF. That jet is not for you, for UPND. That jet is not a political jet. It's a national asset. So politicking aside, politics are over, campaigns are over. So we are talking about now issues of governance. So the president must just face the reality of governance. Use the issue. That's his jet. It should be free. Why should you go to America using a commercial flight when we have a jet? So that thing must be stopped. I think Zambia, we are mature people. Let him. He's a leader now. He's a president. Let him show leadership. Come forward. Use the jet. Apologize and use it for the good purpose, and so that we can have security for the head of state.
All right, gentlemen, allow me to appreciate you for coming. I know that I would have gone forever speaking here. I know that you still have the energy and the likes, but for the sake of that, I'll curtail your conversation so that next time Mr. Tembo comes on time to the studio. But besides that, I know that in the studio we like democracy. So when my director tells me to close the program, I have to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, comrades.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Allow me to end my discussion here. Of course, I've been hosting a team coming from the Zambian Youth League. Of course, being represented by Jonathan Malembeka, who happens to be the Vice President under politics and administration, of course. Indeed, also alongside him, there was Mr. Edward Tembo, who happens to be the National Secretary. Of course, I know that they have attempted to give you what they feel and also a guidance with regards to the New Dawn administration, how they can able to prosper going forward. Allow me to appreciate my camera person in the studio, Obvious Kapunda. Thank you so much for that. You know, those are wonderful pictures to ensure that the people of Zambia are given that good and quality picture. Upstairs, Gilbert, thank you so much. A lone man, we appreciate you for that work as well.